Hello guys and welcome back to Phat Pack Magic, where we're bringing you the F&M Pioneer event hosted at Darkside Games. Now, on the left we've got Vince, who's piloting Bant Company, and on the right we've got Morgan Hung playing Izzet Phoenixes, which proved to be incredibly popular this week. Vince is looking over his hand and he's pretty much good to go. Both players say, okay, we're keeping. And Vince starts off with a breeding pool tapped. Morgan draws to return. He drops his Shivan Reef and passes it right back. Vince seems to be pretty light on action and drops a Temple Garden tapped, but end of turn, Morgan fires off an Opt. As Vince takes a look at Shivan Reef, and Morgan decides to keep it on top and draw. Draws to return. Now what could he be playing? Well, what could he be playing this turn? He played another land. The question is, what is he going to fire off? And it looks like he's going to drop a Thing in the Ice, something incredibly powerful and incredibly potent against the Bant Company deck, because Bant Company is all about getting those tiny little weenies out, and Morgan would be able to bounce them all the way back to his hand, which could be incredibly not good. An incredibly not good thing for Vince. Vince drops a Glacial Fortress for the turn, and trying to decide on what his play is going to be. But it's going to be Teferi Time Raveler that bounces the Thing in the Ice back to hand, and draws Vince a card. A little bit of tempo, but Morgan is undisturbed by this. He's okay with it. He doesn't, it's not like he invested a lot of spells into that Thing in the Ice anyways. But he's going to play it back down, holding up a Shivan Reef, just in case. Vince draws return, pluses Teferi, which is actually pretty relevant against the Izzet Phoenixes deck. He's unable to really do a lot of tricky stuff, at least on Vince's turn, so it's going to have to wait until Morgan's own turn for him to play out his repertoire of spells. Vince is looking at his hand. He's got a Spell Queller. Looks like he's got ways to interact, but Morgan's deck is full of just tiny little cantrips that get small incremental advantage, nothing huge for Vince to kind of chew through. Morgan has his land drop, and it looks like Vince missed his. And he's got a Lightning Axe in hand, but he's going to start his turn off with Chart a Course. It's going to let him draw 2 and start ticking down the Thing in the Ice. Draw 2 and discard a card. One of the premier spells that was in Izzet Phoenixes last year during its time in Standard, being able to draw 2 and chuck a Phoenix away. And Vince doesn't look like he likes it that much, but he's going to let it go through as Morgan discards. Looks like he's got a Phoenix to go away. Nice, he does! He discards a Phoenix, and now Vince is on notice as to what he's playing up against. Morgan looking at the card in hand. It's another Chart a Course. Is he going to be greedy? It looks like he is. He's going to play out another Chart a Course, which is going to drop the Thing in the Ice down 1. And Spell Queller is going to come out and eat the Chart a Course. Vince draws for turn. He's got a little bit of advantage here. He can maybe play out that Deputy of Detention and pin the Thing in the Ice underneath it. But does he want to just hold back and be a responsive player while slowly pinging at Morgan's life total? It doesn't look like he's going to win that way, though, because the Thing in the Ice is going to eventually flip. And Vince decides, you know what, I can't deal with that. So he's going to pin the Thing in the Ice underneath the Deputy of Detention and crash in for 2, bringing Morgan down to 17 and ticking up Teferi. Passes the turn back. Now, Morgan has a Lightning Axe in hand that he could probably use to get rid of that Spell Queller. But he also has a Glory Bringer. So he's going to deploy Glory Bringer. Hasty swings in for 4 at Teferi, and he's going to blow up the Spell Queller. Unfortunately, Morgan is not going to be able to cast the Chart a Course because of Teferi's static ability, which prevents Morgan from playing spells anytime he can play a sorcery. But at least Teferi is out of the way now. I don't know, I think I would have gone more for blowing up the Deputy of Detention and maybe trying to get that Chart a Course later. but maybe Morgan just didn't want a potential blocker in the later turns. Vince is taking a moment. He's got a judge call that he wants to confirm. And I just want to say I love the Izzet Phoenixes deck. It is incredibly powerful, and it's got such great synergy. The amount of cantrips that are available in Pioneer right now make it so strong. I'm really hoping that they bring back maybe Ponder or Preordain or something into Standard, just so we can have another cantrip for this deck. But Vincent is back. He's got his judge call answered, and it looks like he's got an Oko in Playco. Well, Oko and Hando. And Oko is an incredibly powerful planeswalker. However, at this moment, it doesn't seem like it's going to be doing much other than making a Glorybringer into a 3/3 Elk. But instead, he's going to play out Curious Obsession and crash in for 2 at Morgan. This is going to allow him to deal a little bit of damage and draw a card. And finally, he gets there with that third land drop. It's a Hollowed Fountain coming into play on tap, so he's going to take a couple damage off of that. But now he's got an option as to what he wants to play out. And I think Oko is the correct play here. And he does play out Oko. Now the question is he going to make that Glorybringer a 3/3 Elk? Because next turn it would be able to untap. I think. Pretty sure. But, wait, he's going to make a 3/3 Elk? Or is he going to make that a 3/3 Elk? I mean, it would be a 4/4 with, I guess they're discussing as to whether or not the creature would come back if Deputy of Detention became a 3/3 Elk. But instead, he says, you know what, it's too complicated, I'm just going to make a food token, I'm going to pass the turn back. Now, the Glorybringer does not untap because it exerted itself. You know, very good Glorybringer, getting that 2-for-1 in there. And now he's got to decide whether or not he wants to start going for the Phoenix plan. That Deputy of Detention with a Curious Obsession on it isn't going to be good unless Morgan can figure out a way to come up with a blocker. But a Lightning Axe would be pretty fine for that as well, because it'll be able to get back his thing in the ice. Morgan deciding on whether or not he wants to pitch a card to it, or if he wants to just pay the full cost of the Lightning Axe. So he's going to play with the Lightning Axe, targeting the Deputy Detention, discarding a land. He's going to get back his thing in the ice. With 4 counters on it again, he's going to have to charge through, but he's got a few cantrips in hand. And one is Izzet Charm. He's going to have to take 1 damage for it to be able to use the red. But now he's got 2 spells, and he's drawing 2 cards and able to pitch 2 more. Is there another Phoenix that he can pitch to put into his future? A little bit of a gamble here. Let's see. What do you got? What do you got, Morgan? And he's going to pitch a Crash Through and something else. But it's not going to matter because Treasure Cruise is going to come down and exiling all those cards and drawing Morgan 3 more. Now that's 3 spells. That means Phoenix is going to be crashing in, dealing 3 to Oko, and keeping him on lock. Now Oko has made a food token and he can make a 3/3 Elk, but Morgan is sitting there with a team of flyers. Vince is on the back foot here, even though he's got a higher life total, and even though there's plenty of food that can start gaining him life, he needs to be able to get through these flying attackers. Not to mention the thing in the ice, which is on 2 counters. Vincent considering his options, looking at the board, trying to think, how can he get out of this mess? Really taking his time here as he thinks in the tank. Really kind of, he's got a Fairground Warden, which could maybe exile the Glorybringer, but then he's just facing down a Phoenix, and potentially the Fairgrounds Warden could get bounced by the thing in the ice, or Morgan just has a, full suite of removal. So he's going to play the Fairgrounds Warden, And he's not going to hit the Thing in the Ice or the Glorybringer. Instead, he's going to hit the Arclight Phoenix. And he's going to turn the Glorybringer into a 3/3 elk, no longer able to exert itself, and committed to swinging on the ground. And Vince plays a Curious Obsession, which is a very curious play because he didn't attack with the creature this turn, so the Curious Obsession should fall off at the end of turn. However, I guess this is a missed game state by both players who didn't happen to read that card. Now it looks like it's not going to matter too much as Morgan starts his turn with an Opt, bottoms it, draws for turn. He just needs one more spell, and he can bounce everything back. Plays a land for turn. It looks like he's going to go cruising one more time. This is going to transform Thing in the Ice. It's going to bounce the Fairgrounds Warden. It's going to bounce the Glorybringer. And now Morgan has an attack with the Awoken Horror and the freaking Phoenix, throwing 3 damage at Vince's face and 7 at the Oko, which is enough to kill off its loyalty. And Vince is on the back foot, having to deal with a 7/8 Horror and a 3/2 Phoenix. And all he can do is pass the turn back. Now, Morgan is definitely in the driver's seat with 10 power on board, but he's also got a Glorybringer in hand. Here's a Glorybringer. Morgan goes to attacks, swinging in for 14, and Vince pulls a Hail Mary, Collected Company. He needs a Deputy of Detention, but he finds a Reflector Mage and an Elvish Mystic. Now he's going to, he's not going to bounce, is he going to bounce it? Wait. No, he's going to bounce the Glorybringer and put the Elvish Mystic in the way of the Awoken Horror and take 1 damage, or 3 damage, off that Arclight Phoenix. And Morgan plays down another Thing in the Ice. So now Vince has to deal with that Awoken Horror and a freaking Phoenix that has proven to be pretty resilient. But it looks like Vince has another Collected Company in hand. The question is, how does he want to deploy it? He's going to take 2 damage off that untapped breeding pool. And he's got another Fairgrounds Warden. Oh, no, he's got the Fairgrounds Warden that was bounced. So he can tuck the Phoenix underneath it. Or maybe the Awoken Horror, because then it only becomes a Thing in the Ice again. But he's already facing down 1 Thing in the Ice. How much worse could a second one be? Here it goes. It's going to tag the Awoken Horror, transforming it back into a Thing in the Ice when it's underneath. And now he's going to try and figure out a way to deal with that Phoenix. Now, unfortunately, this turn, Morgan is not going to be able to crash him with Glorybringer because of Reflector Mage, forcing it back to his hand, meaning that he can't play it this turn. But he's going to play a Steam Fence untapped, going down to 12. And he's going to play out a Phoenix. Hardcast. And he's going to play out another Phoenix. Hardcast. And 1 Phoenix was a lot, but 3 Phoenixes is 9 damage, swinging in the air at Vince's face, bringing him down to 1. And Vince plays out a Wildborn Preserver, which is a 2/2 with reach. So a little bit of relevance there. Now, the hard part is that Morgan is going to be able to drop the Glorybringer next turn. So Vince needs to get 3 toughness onto that Wildborn Preserver. And Deputy Detention is the magic number to do it, because it's going to exile all the Phoenixes at once, and he's going to be able to put 3 toughness on the Wildborn, but he's going to... He only puts 1 toughness on the Wildborn Preserver and swings in. Okay. I don't know what he's holding up mana for, but... not sure. But Glorybringer comes down. It's 4 damage. It's hasty. It swings in, it gets the game, and game 1 goes to Morgan Hung, beating the Bant Company brew. And wow, I mean, maybe that was a misplay on Vince's part, but yeah, or maybe he just forgot that Glorybringer had haste, or Glorybringer was in Morgan's hand. Either way, that was one incredible game, but we're gonna take a break for our sponsors, and we'll be right back. We will be right back. Hey guys, I want to give a quick shout out here to Your Playmat. These guys offer fully customizable playmats, card sleeves, and foil playmats. Now, I wouldn't be talking to you guys about these mats unless I personally believed in them. So check this out. Yeah, that is the Mox Jet Altar on the Phat Pack Magic draft videos, and we put that on a mat. And here's the best part. Your Playmat believes in me and believes in my channel, and therefore believes in you guys. So that's why they're doing a special discount code only for Phat Pack Magic YouTube subscribers. Put in the code PPM15 and get 15% off any playmat you order. Foil, regular, anything you're looking for. PPM15. So what are you guys waiting for? Go make your own mats and show off your style. And we are back. Vince is shuffling up and he's preparing for that long uphill battle to get 2-1 against Morgan Hung, because he's got to finish through this game and the next. So he's counting on his collected company to find everything he needs, and he's going to have to do it fast, because Morgan's after sideboard really favored in this matchup, I think. Morgan has a ton of stuff to get through, those tiny little weenies, and I don't know. I'm favoring Morgan in this matchup, I think. So they're starting off. Here we go. Drawing 7. And looks like Vince has a fine start here. He's got his colors, and he says he's good. He's going to start off with the Temple Garden, untapped, taking 2, and into a Gilded Goose. And that is a fine way to start off a turn 1 play from this deck. Morgan plays a Spire Bluff Canal, passes it back, and it looks like Vince is deciding on his land drop. It's going to be a Sun Petal Grove, which is going to come into play untapped, and he passes the turn back, holding open his mana, and taking a gander at what seems to be a Spell Queller in hand. Morgan plays his land and passes back, but here comes a Wildborn Preserver, a 2/2 with Flash and Reach, perfect against Morgan Hung's deck, because he's going to be playing at the end of his turn, but an Izzet Charm comes in and shocks the Wildborn Preserver to death, and Vince only has a land drop for turn. He passes back to Morgan. Morgan draws for turn. The Shivan Reef, but whether or not he's going to discard his land for turn or play. Nope, he's going to go with Chart a Course, and Vince is going to respond by playing a Collector Company, sacrificing the food token, and looking at the top 6 cards. God, I keep forgetting that it's 6 cards. 6 cards that he can dig through and get 2 creatures with CMC 3 or less. And it's a Spell Queller, which is going to tuck the Chart a Course underneath, and now Vince is able to start on the aggressive game plan, holding up mana with the Spell Queller in hand. He's going to take 2 for the Hollowed Fountain, and he's going to crash in for 4, evening the life totals, 16 all, and passes the turn back to Morgan. And Morgan is starting to get under a little bit of pressure here. He hasn't been able to cobble together the amount of spells and stuff he needs to get going, but he's going to play out an Arclight Phoenix anyways, a 3/2, which is a fine blocker against the Spell Queller and Reflector Mage. But Vince is taking a moment. Does he have a response? It's another Collected Company! Wow! So, down comes Reflector Mage and a Selfless Spirit, bouncing the Arclight Phoenix to hand. And now, Vince has 8 power on board. This is Collected Company, folks. This is what you're looking for. If you're looking for a deck that can just ramp out advantage and really get there on the tempo game, it's Collected Company. He crashes in at Morgan for 8. Morgan draws for turn, and he scoops. Wow! That double Collected Company was just backbreaking, finding everything he needed, getting that Arclight Phoenix off the field and being able to get that immediate advantage off Collected Company. Wow, that is just amazing. I love this deck. I love watching it play out. And Morgan is just sitting there like, what just happened? Collected Company twice. That's what happened, bro. That's Collected Company. And we are starting our next game, going on to game 3. And Morgan has to be a little bit more concerned this time. He needs more creature interaction, but more so, he needs ways to get out from underneath that 2-for-1 that Collected Company offers. Morgan just being able to play out spells is great and all, but he needs to get that thing in the ice down, and he needs to get it primed and pumped before Vince can deploy a Deputy or a Teferi. So Morgan starts off with a Steam Vents tap, Vince playing a tap land, the Castle Vantress, and here we go, Thing in the Ice, and Vince is immediately on notice. He's got a few cards in hand that are pretty good. Dovin's Veto is going to be really good in the counter war that's going to be coming up with Izzet Charm and all that kind of spells, being able to counter for 2. But he says, you know what, no, I'm just going to take 2 and I'm going to play out a Selfless Spirit. I need to get the clock rolling here. Morgan draws for turn, pays 2, and it's an Abrade, killing off that Selfless Spirit and removing a counter from Thing in the Ice. Vince looking at his hand, trying to decide if he wants to play the more defensive game or the more aggressive game. He has 2 Deputies of Detention in hand, and it's going to at least get that Thing in the Ice off the board. But the question is, does Morgan have the removal for that Deputy of Detention? So Vince is going to play it slow. It's a forest. You know what? No. What are you doing, Vince? Really taking his time. Vince is a thinker, I've found. And he's going to play out the Deputy of Detention, tucking the Thing in the Ice underneath. But Morgan doesn't look too bothered by it, because he's got a land, but he also has another Thing in the Ice. So he plays the Spire Bluff Canal tapped, and drops the Thing in the Ice again, passing the turn back to Vince, who is now really regretting playing Deputy of Detention that turn, because he could have possibly 2-for-1 Morgan and tucked both of them underneath 1 Deputy of Detention. But he plays out an Elvish Mystic. Now the question is, does he want to let the other Thing in the Ice get through? Pays 2 life for a Temple Garden and passes the turn back, definitely signaling a Spell Queller in hand, because you want 3 mana for that Spell Queller. Now, is Morgan going to play around it, or is he going to try and play through it? Looks like he's going to start with an Opt. That's going to remove a counter from the Thing in the Ice. He's looking at the card, deciding on whether or not he wants to keep it on top. But in his hand is also a Sweltering Suns. Now, the magic number for Vince's creatures is 3 or less, and Sweltering Suns will do 3 or less damage. Well, 3 damage to his creatures. He's also got a Treasure Cruise in there. But he's going to start with a Crash Through, removing another counter, drawing a card, and he draws an Arclight Phoenix, which doesn't prove to be as good when he doesn't have a lot of cantrips and cycling cards to play it with. Maybe he'll draw a Lava Axe next turn, but I don't think Vince is going to let a lot of stuff through. He's got a couple pieces of counter magic in hand. Vince draws for turn. Just really deep in the tank. He doesn't want to play into an Izzet Charm, and Morgan is signaling that mana. He's just taking his time. Now, thing with Bant Company is that you're playing kind of a roulette. When you play out Collected Company, you're gambling off the top sometimes it's a whip, so you have to really know the amount of cards in your deck, the percentage of what's going to be on top, or the percentage of what could be there, and it's always just a random 6 cards. So maybe Vince is taking that into account as he plays a Breeding Pool tap and passes the turn back. Now Morgan has drawn another thing in the ice, and he's got that Sweltering Suns in hand, and he's asking himself, is this the right time to fire it off? Or maybe just play out the Phoenix and start the aggressive game going. Start getting that damage in there. And really, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on this game because they're both 1-1, and the winner of this game is going to be in the next round. So being on camera is pretty cool, I think. So Morgan plays out these Sweltering Suns, either trying to bait the Spell Queller or just seeing if he can get some damage through, and slowly ticking down the thing in the ice. Ben's trying to decide what he wants to do here, if anything. Dealing 3 damage to the Deputy of Detention is negligible. It's going to bring out another thing in the ice. But the thing in the ice is going to flip either way, probably next turn if Morgan draws a cantrip, or if Morgan has a cantrip right now. He's holding up a Shivan Reef, so it could be an opt. He's just really deep in thought here. And he's pulled Spell Queller to the front. Maybe it's time to fire it off, and he does. Here's Spell Queller, tucking that Sweltering Suns underneath, but he still has to deal with that thing in the ice next turn. Vince draws. Plays a Breeding Pool tapped. And looks like he's going to get in there for 2 against Morgan, bringing it down to 18. 18 all. And passes the turn back to Morgan. Morgan draws. Now he just needs 1 card, 1 cantrip to flip. Oh man, you can feel the tension here. Like, it's here, it's coming. So another thing in the ice gets dropped by Morgan. He's holding up 2 mana. He's missed a couple of land drops, and he passes the turn back to Vince. Now he might just want to get a little bit more advantage off of whatever spells he has in hand before flipping the first thing in the ice. But Vince untaps. Both players not wanting to commit too much to the board as Vince crashes in for 2, bringing Morgan down to 16, and debating on whether or not he wants to pass the turn back. He's got another Deputy of Detention in hand too, and that could definitely wipe out both of Morgan's thing in the ice, tucking them both underneath and leaving him completely bare. While Vince would have 5 power on the board, but he opts not to, passing the turn back, deciding that he's going to try and wait this out. And here comes an Izzet Charm with the mode of draw 2, discard 2, flipping thing in the ice. The Sweltering Sun gets cast, and Morgan opts not to use it, but Izzet Charm is still on the stack after the thing in the ice's ability. Ben's pondering if this is what he wants to use his Spell Queller on, but he's got a full grip of cards. Ben's really taking his time here, but he opts to use the Spell Queller. It's going to tuck the thing in the ice underneath, and Morgan is going to crash in for 7, I believe. Right? Or is he going to do something else? It's still his main phase, but nope. He's going to head to attacks, crashes in for 7. Vince could block and let the Izzet Charm resolve. Or maybe just spend another card to counter the Izzet Charm, but that doesn't seem prudent. Instead, he's just going to take 7, going down to 11, because he's got so many answers in hand. And it's Vince's end of turn step. Vince draws, and man, oh man, he's got a plethora of answers, and the WD of Detention is going to get rid of the Awoken Horror, tucking it underneath and making it a 0/4 Thing in the Ice once more. Spell Queller crashes in for 2, slowly bringing those life totals down to equals. Morgan at 14 and Vince at 11, as Vince gets ready to pass the turn back to Morgan. But no, he's going to play a land first, untap Shock Land, dealing 2 to Vince, bringing him down to 9. And I have to say that the Shock Lands are incredibly potent in this format. Unlike other formats where Shock Lands are so much more dangerous, they seem to be a lot more fair here. As Vince drops an Elvish Mystic and passes the turn back to Morgan. Morgan plays his land, taps 4, and here's a Treasure Cruise. Removing 2 counters, 1 off of each Thing in the Ice, and drawing 3 cards seems like something you definitely want to counter. But the question is, how does Vince want to counter it? He's got Dovin's Veto, but he's going to use the Mystical Dispute, which is going to be a 1 blue, counter a blue spell for 3. And Morgan follows it up with a Dispel, but Vince has a Dovin's Veto to follow that up with. And now the Things in the Ice are at 1 and 2 counters each. But Vince drops a Deputy of Detention, tucking them both underneath. Wow! Now Vince is going to be able to start a commanding attack here, crashing in for 4 damage, bringing Morgan down to 10, and Morgan is left with almost just 2 cards in hand, 3 on the draw. And he is in a cumbersome position here. He desperately needs a Sweltering Suns, but he's going to play an Arclight Phoenix, and Spell Queller is going to come down, countering the Arclight Phoenix and tucking it underneath. And now, wow, here's Teferi, just in case, Vince wanted any bit more of an advantage here. And he is going to bounce a Spell Queller that has the Arclight Phoenix underneath, and Morgan is going to be unable to cast it, so it just remains in exile as Vince crashes in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage, bringing Morgan down to 5, and holding a Spell Queller in hand. Vince has almost completely eliminated Morgan's ability to get back into this game. Morgan draws. He's got 1 shot. It's maybe a Thing in the Ice. Maybe this can get through and block and bring him at 1. Vince deciding on whether or not he wants to Spell Queller it. I mean, Morgan could just be baiting that and then go for a Sweltering Suns. But here it comes, Spell Queller. Alright, what do you got, Morgan? Alright, the Thing in the Ice gets countered. And he shows a dive down, and that is it! That is the match! And Vince wins with Bant Company showing off its chops. It's not simply a gimmick deck, it's something that works in this format. And what a game, what a match. Holy crap, guys. And if you love this deck, you gotta check it out on TCG Player. It's incredibly inexpensive to buy at the moment too. But that's it for us this time. But stay tuned because there's more Pioneer action coming down the pipeline. And some of you guys have been asking me, hey Phat Pack Magic, why aren't you doing Twitch streams? Why aren't you doing live broadcasts? And I can, but I need your guys' support. So how do you support me? Follow us on Instagram, hit a like button, hit that subscription thing, hit that notification bell, and clicking the links in the description below is a big help. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. So until next time, may all your packs be fat.